everyone, and welcome back to Kara's Kitchen. So like I said in my previous video, we are going to be tackling salmon today, no pun intended. We're also going to prepare some asparagus to go along with it. Now, if you don't like asparagus, you don't have to cook it along with it. I just like the two of them together, especially since they're both going to use that citrus from the lemon in it. That way it has similar flavors and they just pair really well together. So I have all of my ingredients set and ready to go. Let's get cooking. Okay, so the first thing we are going to be preparing for this dish is going to be our butter that we're going to put on the salmon. So I have 3 tablespoons of butter, unsalted. I have half of a lemon, juiced and zested. So if you remember back to our Parmesan chicken recipe, I showed you how I just zested a lemon. So you just take the outside of it, put it on a very fine grater. A zester is preferred, but not everyone has one. So we just use the little bit of a grater. Make sure you don't get a lot of that white because that's going to make it very bitter. So we're going to do half of our lemon juiced and zested. We're going to do roughly a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of fresh dill. I like a lot of dill, so I tend to put a lot in there. And then we have our garlic. This is just 2 cloves minced. Add that right on in there. Okay. And then of course our salt and our pepper. Just a little pinch of both. And we're going to just work this all together. And we do want to do the butter first, that way it has time to kind of meld together, make sure everyone becomes friends in there. That way it creates a really balanced flavor and a cohesive flavor when we go to cook it on our salmon. Okay, so there we go. We will be using flavored butters a decent amount here on Kara's Kitchen. So it's going to be a very similar technique, just softened butter, and then whatever herbs we're going to be adding to it. There we go. So we are all mixed together. Let's get started on our asparagus. Okay, so for the asparagus, we're going to want to preheat our oven to 375 degrees. I have my asparagus here rinsed and ready to go. I did save a couple stalks here, that way I can kind of show you how to prepare it. So for the most part, asparagus will let you know where it will break off. So all you have to do is just snap it like that. This one's a little bit bigger. But you just snap the ends right off, and that's going to be the nice crunchy part that we're going to be looking for. Okay, so now we have just a little bit of olive oil. I'm not really going to measure it. I'm just going to drizzle it right on top here, like so. And then we're going to do our salt again. We want a nice generous amount. So I'll probably do one more little sprinkle here. Our pepper. Again, I have another half of a lemon, zested and juiced. Just put it right on top there. So now we are going to just take our hands, making sure that they're nice and clean, and we're going to just kind of get all of this mixed together. Make sure every piece is coated, and then we want to make sure it's in a nice even layer on our sheet pan here, like so. And I also have a smaller lemon. If you don't have a smaller lemon, you can just use half of a regular lemon. And I'm just going to randomly place a few little wedges here. This is just gonna kind of help bring a little bit of extra flavor to it. You don't have to worry about taking out the seeds because we're not actually going to be eating these parts. We're gonna be taking it off once they're done cooking. So in the oven, 375 degrees, and this is going to cook for roughly 15 to 20 minutes. So while our asparagus is baking away in the oven, we are going to be working on our salmon. So over here I just have a couple pieces of paper towel on our salmon because we want it nice and dry when we go to apply our butter, otherwise it'll just slide right off. Now a lot of people in general seem to be a little bit skeptical when it comes to cooking with fish for the first time, just because you don't want to overcook it, but you also don't want to undercook it. So a good rule of thumb is 5 minutes on each side. Obviously, if it's a thicker cut, you want to give it just a little bit more time. And we are going to be leaving the skin on the salmon for right now. We'll be taking it off after it cooks a little bit, because if you try to do it right now, it's not going to peel away very nicely, and you don't want a butchered piece of salmon. So I just got some nice fresh pieces from my local grocery store. And we are going to take our butter, and we're going to take half of it and just put it right on top. I have my pan over here, medium-high heat. Okay, so just kind of take our hands. You're going to be getting a little bit messy here. We're just going to smooth it right on. Okay, and we want all of this to cook into our salmon, so we are going to put it butter side down. Just like that. And then we'll do the same with this other piece here. Putting the butter right on and butter side down. Always being careful when you're working with a hot pan though. Okay, so we are going to be cooking this for roughly 5 minutes on this side, and then we will take the skin off and flip it over to cook it for 5 more minutes. Okay, so it wound up being a little bit more like 6 minutes for my salmon here. So 6 minutes, making sure that around this time it should be like the 10-minute point that your asparagus has been in the oven. Just give it a little shake, move them around. They'll be in for another 5 minutes, which is perfect timing because our fish should be done roughly 5 to 6 minutes, which means everything will kind of finish up around the same time. So with our salmon skin, we're just going to very carefully peel it all back. So we want to get it all off here. Kind of like the asparagus, it will let you know when it's ready to come off, when it's cooking down enough. Okay, there we go. That is piece number 1. And just gotta kind of wiggle it, get a good handle on it. Maybe. Trying not to take the skin off like I just did, or flesh off. There we go. Okay. There we go. Salmon skin is removed. Making sure we don't have any on our tongs here. And we are going to very, very carefully turn over. Like I said, carefully, you don't want to splash yourself. Okay, so you see it's starting to become kind of opaque a little bit. You see where that butter started crusting on top, and we're going to be flipping this over into more of that butter mixture here. Now this is a little bigger piece, so I'm going to try to be nice and careful with it. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So another 5 or so minutes, and around the same time our asparagus will be coming out of the oven, and we'll be ready to plate. Okay, so 5 minutes cooking on this other side. I already took our asparagus out, and we are all ready to plate. So we'll just take a piece of our salmon here, making sure we're not stuck on the bottom of the pan. Oh, I think I might actually need a spatula for this one. Okay. Because it's just flaking right off, which is wonderful. That means it is perfectly cooked. You won't even need a knife to cut into that. Okay, now let's get this guy out of here. Okay, right on our plate. Look at how beautiful that is cooked. Okay, why don't we give this a taste? Okay, so remember we plated our salmon and our asparagus. You can still see how that butter is beautifully crusted on top. There's the dill, you see the little bit of garlic coming through. Why don't we give it a try? And look at that, you don't even need a knife. It just flakes right off, which means it's still nice and tender. Still nice and juicy. You have the beautiful taste of the dill with the citrus of the lemon, that little bit of bite from the garlic. Fantastic. Let's give our asparagus a try too. Okay. Perfectly roasted, still has a little bit of a crunch to it. And then you have that citrus from the lemon. Perfect. Well, that wraps up our episode of Kara's Kitchen. Please join me next time. I'm going to be showing you how to roast a whole chicken. Now that seems a little bit scary, but it's actually really simple and you're probably never going to want to get a rotisserie chicken again. So join me next week. Stay safe, and if you like these videos, please don't forget to subscribe.